I'm going to be very brief. These things go on and on. I was at Smith & Wesson last week with Senator Blackburn, and both our sheriffs were there. And I got up, and they had an hour-long program. These people put these things on. They go around the country and they organize these things. But we're in office. We go to a lot of dadgum chicken dinners, folks. I mean, this is my third chicken this week, and so I don't know what they did to deserve all that, but we're taking them to the cleaners. But I sat up there and I thought, man, this thing's going on. Those poor people were out in the sunlight. I see Sheriff Barong, he got sunburned out there, and it got to be miserable. Everybody loves Smith & Wesson. It's a great story, great company. We're glad they're here. They're right over there in Blount County, and just they're in God's country, and we're glad they're there. And I thought, man, this thing's going on. Senator Blackburn got to speak, and then the Speaker of the House, he got up and spoke, Cameron Sexton, and then it was my turn to speak, and I got up and I told this story. I said, I go to a lot of these things, and I was at one of my rural counties, and I got up there and they said, and we were supposed to be speaking, keynote speaker, and of course they said, but we're going to change it up tonight. Everybody who's running for office and every elected office holder in this county we want them to get up and speak. And they said, we want to give you 2.5 minutes, which you know how that deal went. Oh my gosh. So we're 15 deep into this thing, right? And this one guy gets up there and literally, he had a neck tattoo, front to back, looked like Snake Plissken. He escaped from New York. And he said what his name is, and he said, "Dadgummit, that's my speech. Thank y'all." Well, he sits down, and he won in a landslide. That is no lie. And he's still my friend, and he's a good man. Look, we got a lot going on. As I said, I do not take myself serious. I take this job very serious. I take your all's concerns very serious, and I take them to Washington, and we fight it out all the time. And sometimes we win, sometimes we compromise, and dadgummit, sometimes we just get our butts kicked. Those days are over. When Charlie Kirk was assassinated, I thought to myself, I was thinking the first time I'd met him, and I remember the first time I met him, but I was thinking the last time I talked to him. It was on the phone. It was about 2:30 in the morning. It was the night we were trying to pass the big, beautiful bill. I was running back and forth with the speaker, and he was on the phone with President Trump, and we were talking about how to get the vote. And I looked down at 2:32, and my phone rang. I looked down, and and he said, "Tim, it's Charlie." And I was like, "Charlie who?" I said, "Charlie Kirk." And I said, "Oh, hey, Charlie, what's going on?" He said, "Well, I need to ask you that. What is going on?" And I said, "Well," and I gave him that. I talked about our strategy. And that's what Charlie was about. He was about traditional values. He was about what was traditional in this country for over 200 dadgum years. We allowed these colleges and universities and these so-called think tanks and this intelligentsia that try to run our dadgum country, try to tell us how we should believe, how we should worship our God, how we should work, how we should live in our communities, tell us completely opposite of what we've talked about our entire lives, what we've been taught in this community especially. And so I think about his bravery. I think about the brave people in this room. I think about the veterans, the people that gave everything for this country. And please, if you're a veteran, stand up, raise your hand so we can recognize you. This, and I don't get tired of saying it. Dadgummit, as a Christian, I owe everything in my life, everything I have except for my salvation, to the men and women that wore our country's uniform. I thank you all for that. I thank you for what you do. I thank you for your bravery. I'm thankful for those young people, the bravery that they exhibit on our college campuses right now. For so long they've been shouted down. Now they have a rallying cry. We need to support them. We need to make sure, though, just like kudzu, you can cut kudzu out, you can cut it to the ground. You can bring in the goats, you can bring in UT's going to have some new spray they're going to put on it. And guess what? It comes back up in 5 different places. And that's what's happened on our college campuses. We're all puffed up right now. We've fired a few people. We've gone after some folks. And then we've sort of set back. But there's one person in this crowd who has never set back. She has exhibited strength and courage under fire. She is the very first person to raise Cain about one of these leftists that was running Charlie down after he died at MTSU, my friend Marsha Blackburn. She stood in the gap. You can applaud, go ahead. That's it. I've heard a lot of people reconstruct history and what happened in this state during the income tax fight. Well, dadgummit, I was there. I sat right beside Marsha Blackburn. I saw what happened. I can remember when the lieutenant governor came over and said, Bob's got the vote. Y'all come back here in about a half hour and we're going to vote on this thing. But one person had a better idea, Marsha Blackburn. She got on the computer, she got on the phone, she rallied the troops. She turned the tide of history in this state. If we'd had a state income tax, we would be under government control. We would have abdicated our duties as state legislators, and we would have become a debt state. We are a debt-free state because of the hard work of the legislators. This lady is tough. We went to, she's eaten more chicken dinners, I think, than Steve Hunley has. We hit UT the other day. We did before the game. Terrible outcome. But dadgummit, myself, Thomas, and the Marcus and Kelly, we had Marsha with us. Glenn Jacobs and I, we got up under the tent and said, man, this thing's tired. I guess Marsha's about worn out. And we're like, where's Marsha? We turned around and where was she? She was out in the crowd shaking hands. She is one tough lady. She is what we need in this state. We need somebody that can tell the left and the folks that want more taxes, want more government in your life, we've had enough. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a strong East Tennessee welcome for the woman who is going to be the next governor of the great state of Tennessee, my dear friend, Marsha Blackburn.